G'day guys, welcome to another episode of the Mason Cox Show. No, obviously I'm not Mason Cox. Mace is up in Sydney and he will be joining us via the power of the internet. But I am here to give you a little sneak preview to this week's episode because we talk all things finals, including Collingwood's big win over Essendon that gets them the form they need heading into the final series. And Jack Ginnivan actually got a free kick. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the score reviews going up through the roof, score review galore, and we'll talk about the Coleman race that was between Charlie and Tex and how all of that played out, and it was down to the wire, really. All that and more on this week's episode, so sit back and enjoy the show.
Okay, legends, let's get into it. Welcome, Braden Cox.
G'day, Mason. Now, I've got some news for you. Did you know that you guys are still in finals? Because it doesn't look like you're in Melbourne.
No, not in Melbourne. I haven't jetted off for the off-season just yet, Braden. I am up here. We've got the weekend off, obviously, with the bye week before finals. So I've taken the initiative to come up to Sydney for the weekend, just enjoy a bit of warmer weather, head to the beach, and get a bit of that vitamin D, as they say.
Gotta love getting some of that D. Let's jump into the clanger because they were just contradictory this weekend where the commentators all last week, obviously the agenda was, we need to fix this score review system. We need a better system. We need more score reviews. We need less score reviews. We need to tighten things up. Well, they like a bit of both ways. And throughout the whole weekend, we saw a ramp up in score reviews and we saw some correct decisions being made off the back of those. But boy, oh boy, wowee, didn't we see some of the commentators just having a big old sookie whinge. They're delaying the game. Things are slowing down. We got to the correct decisions. I think that was the whole point of the system. We got some correct decisions this weekend. We got some overturns. We got some confirmations, mostly off goal reviews, which doesn't slow down shit, Mace. So I don't know what they were sooking about, but it was ready. They had it primed. They knew exactly what they were going to complain about this weekend. Either there was going to be another mistake and they were going to, tee off, or there was going to be a lot of score reviews, and boy, oh boy, didn't they just sook it up. And I'm clanging all the footy commentators that had a big old whinge about the score review system because we saw zero issues with it this weekend. So I don't know what they were complaining about, Mace.
People just are never happy. They just, there's no solution that's absolutely perfect for everyone. Now, it is a big shout out to the score review, and we're going to get into that because that actually was used correctly, and you wouldn't believe it. The feedback the rest of the world's been giving them, maybe they're taking it on. Who knows? But I'll get into my clanger of the week. Now, it happened in our game, and there was obviously a massive ordeal with Andrew Phillips and Tipper playing their last game for Essendon. And Tipper, obviously, he's not a massive human, and they carried him off on the shoulders. But Andrew Phillips, no love. Didn't get anyone to grab him, throw him up on the shoulders, carry him off, nothing. Just had to walk off on his own lonesome, and I was upset. I was not having it. I looked at Andrew and I said, hey, if you need a big fella to carry off, man, I'm happy to do it. You just let me know. But Essendon just got to be better, It's not just Tipper's last game. It's also Andrew Phillips. Give the man some love, all right?
That's what they needed. They needed to rent a big man. They needed to get a couple of big boys across from Collingwood just to help out, prop him up because they're a bit down in the big man stocks over there at Essendon at the moment.
I think DC and myself would have been happily to take one leg each and carry them on our shoulders off, and it would have been a beautiful moment for everyone. I will say that. But we'll get into the games this week. Now, Hawthorn, first off the cab rank. We got Hawthorn 56 versus Fremantle 93 the score. And Caleb Sarong playing pretty well and also playing against his younger brother, Jai. So it's a bit of a family affair this weekend. And Sarong, it finished with 32 disposals, 9 clearances. That's fair to say he had a decent game. I'm not sure what Jai did. He didn't make the highlight package, so I'm assuming Caleb Strong took out the brother win.
Jeepers. You know how competitive it is between brothers, Mace. You got to get the runs on the board early, especially if you're the older brother, because the younger brother's coming for your throne.
100%. Jai, maybe he'll have a better career than Caleb eventually, but Caleb at the moment, one of the stars over there, Fremantle, and playing well. And Freo, they reached the semifinal last year, but obviously now with the 8 finished up, they do miss the 8, finishing in a 10-13 record. But they can hang their head high because they've won 3 of the last 5. So they didn't just fold over at the very end of the year. They still made a bit of a run for it, and were able to have a bit of respect going into the end of the season.
How do you see that? Because obviously there was expectations on them going in off the success from last year. Does the, late little flurry that doesn't really mean too much, do you reckon that appeases the fans?
I think it appeases the coach and also the fans. Yeah, it's one of those things. We'll talk about North Melbourne at the very end, and them playing well against their team, the old Gold Coast Suns down there in Tassie later today, or later in the episode. But I think these showing up at the very end of the season, and whenever you don't really have anything to play for, and you're maybe out of finals and still wanting to get the win on the board, it's a sign that you've got some people that are investing in the future and see a definite future with some of the younger kids on the list.
And how did our boy Finn McGuinness go? Because we like to touch on Finn. Finn's up. We got a few Finns in the league. But how did Finn McGuinness go this week? Shut anyone down?
He did. He started on Luke Ryan, which was unique because I think everyone was expecting him to go straight to Sarong. And he shut down Luke Ryan for the first chunk and then went to Sarong. But Sarong was just having a heck of a day, and he ended up just releasing the tag before the end of the game. So Finn McGuinness did his job. Don't get me wrong, the old tagman, but they kind of just let him go at the end of it and didn't really go with the tag. But he is one of those people I feel like is probably one of the most talked about people there at Hawthorn. Him and Sicily up there with the most, headline worthy people, I would say, over there at Hawthorn at the moment.
Now, let's jump into North v Suns, because I did say last week, and I put a clip up saying that the Suns should forfeit. Now, in hindsight, I'm sure they're looking at this one going, maybe we should have, because they went down convincingly in the end, because it was competitive at the start. A bit of a blockbuster for the 4,378 Tasmanians that showed up to Blundstone Arena. But North 132. Massive score. Defeated the Suns 97. Wow, if your season wasn't already just that flat, traveling down from Gold Coast to Tassie and getting pumped by a team that has lost 20 on the trot, what do you say?
Hey, as an avid Sun supporter, it is a blip on the radar, Braden. It's a blip on the radar, and thank God no one saw it, but 4,000 people. So it could be worse. But I'm excited for that Tasmania team to get down there and get all 5,000 supporters. But Nick Larkey on the day kicked 9. And this man has been outstanding for the last chunk of this year. Kicked 9 on the day, and he's up there for all Australian contention. There's a few rumors going around he might be in the squad, but he did have a heck of a day. And the North Melbourne Football Club, I'm so confused. West Coast last week, threw the number 1 pick out of the door and said we don't want it. And now North Melbourne said the exact same shit literally a week later, and they say, you know what, we don't want the number 1 draft pick. We're gonna win. We're gonna give up the wooden spoon to someone else this year. We're gonna give it over to the West Coast. And North, decides to go with maybe the number 2 pick this year. I don't get it. I just don't understand it. Like, surely you get to the point where you go, let's look towards the future. This game means absolutely nothing. No one's here, and no one gives a shit.
You think you're confused. Imagine being Harley Reid sitting at home on the last couple of weekends going like, oh, I'm going to Perth. All right, cool. Get used to that. Oh, wait, no, I'm going back to North. Oh, wait, no, I'm going to Perth. Oh, wait, I'm going to North. He must be that. His head must be spinning. It's like, well, does no one want me? Why are they all winning games all of a sudden? Oh, they want the number 2 pick. Big Harley Reid's like, what about me? Just sitting at home on the couch, scratching his head. I will say, just touching on Larkey one more time, normally North is always touted this big war chest. They've got a war chest to take to the trade period and pick up whoever they want, except for the tiny little thing of no one wanted to go there. That's just one tiny little part of it. But you reckon they need to be opening up this war chest and giving Nick Larkey just a big fat stack of cash to keep him at the club? Surely you're doing everything to keep him there, because if he's kicking goals now, wait till your team's any bloody good and he'll be the next guy to kick 100, I reckon.
There's 2 people next guy to kick 100. Let's just calm our engines for a bit. But I think there's 2 people in the league I'm looking at right now. It's Larkey and Oscar Allen that need to sign a bag. They need to sign an absolute bag with whatever club it is, and they need to get their money's worth, because they are holding their team in competition at the moment, and they're 2 absolutely shining stars in the competition. So I think, hopefully, I don't know where it all sits as far as his contract, but I would expect him to be signing a long-year deal if North Melbourne's trying to lock him away.
And you'd be loving being his manager at the moment because you know it's coming. Surely you know it's coming. He's not the only exciting name coming out of the North Melbourne Football Club, though, because obviously you got Sheasel, who broke the record for the most disposals in a first season.
Oh, we all know Sheasel's one of my favorites, and his mom's even a favorite of mine too. Now he broke Nick Dacos's record, and that was made last year, and he's one of those guys. Obviously, that's probably going to win. The first year Rising Star Award. That's pretty much a lock for I feel like Shees at the moment, and it's incredible what he's been able to do at a team that's like you said, lost 20 straight before this game. So he's been performing in an underperforming team as far as the rest of the competition goes, and it's an incredible, I guess, accomplishment for him, and it's something he should be definitely proud of. It's something he should hold his head high with. It's a pretty incredible accomplishment throughout the year.
Now, I think that's enough from that game. We're done with that game because we've already spent way too much time on it. It was for nothing, for no reason. No one got anything out of it. So let's move on to Brisbane versus St Kilda, a team that had something on the line for both sides. Brisbane getting the chocolates, 72-60. Got the big W up at the Fortress up there in Brizzy, but it wasn't easy because St Kilda, I'm telling you, they're just a tough defensive team. And I was going to say now that they're getting the score on the board, but 60 points, you probably want to get that north, maybe up to 80 or something. Yeah. But it kind of set in stone that Brisbane, home final, going to be very tough to beat. With if they can get that first win and then they go straight through to another Gabba home prelim, very, very scary. They're undefeated at the Gabba this year, 11 from 11.
It's wild to think, but yeah, it's to lock away that top two spot after another result that happened with Port Adelaide later in the week on Saturday or Sunday, I think it was. It's a massive win for them because you got to think 2 home finals of the Fortress, no matter what, is going to be tough to be able to beat them up there. Like you said, they've been undefeated there all year, and going into a finals campaign, that's a massive tick for them to be able to do. And during this game, they lived inside their forward 50, inside their forward half, really. It was tough for St Kilda to be able to get their ball on the forward line. That's probably why they scored only 60 points. But they also held Brisbane to 72, and we all know Brisbane's got quite a few weapons up forward with the likes of Joe Danaher and our favorite, old Charlie. Charlie up there. It's vroom vroom. They've got quite a potent attack. So to hold them to 72 points at home, also a massive accomplishment for them. But Callum Wilkie, I want to say this: is he all Australian in your mind? Like he's had an incredible year.
I reckon it's going to be a tough year. I think the defenders are going to be the hardest to pick, because there's so many good ones. And the fact that probably the best defenders have missed a handful of games. So you're looking at Darcy Moore, missed, the back end of the season. And you're looking at Sam Taylor, who he's just a brick wall back there. You can't get anything past that guy. But he has missed a chunk of footy this year as well. So that kind of shakes things up a bit because you can't really just slot him straight in if you're looking at the whole year. But yeah, Wilkie's got to be up there. He was really impressive on the weekend. You did say they kept him to 72, but it didn't help that Joe Danaher was just shanking him from the top of the square. These were like, I think there's probably only a small handful of people when they mark him at the top of the square that you're like, I'm still going to watch this because it's not in the book yet. It's not in the book. And we saw why. He just drilled him into the post. He missed a couple of shockers from about 20 out, and then he got the old Joe the Goose and bashed it home from the goal line. And he gave the big cheeky Joe Danaher smile like, I couldn't miss that one.
Oh, man. He had a clutch goal in the last quarter, too, to be able to get them over the line. But as a forward, man, there is no worse nightmare than missing a set shot straight out in front. And luckily it was in the first quarter, so he could make up for it. Imagine if it was in the fourth, he'd be absolutely kicking himself. But yeah, missing one from the goal scorer, I feel like we've all been there. And it's just the pressure of the moment gets to you because it's literally one of the easiest kicks you can possibly have in football. But it happens to everyone. It happens to the best of us, Joey D. And I've got mad love for the man. I think ever since that one day someone was doing a set shot. He ended up just sitting on the boundary, like up on the fence. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Just set up on the fence, just chilling, having a nice little breath, just hanging out. And the footy world lost their freaking mind, but it was just the most Joey D thing ever of just casual living life, loving life up there in Brisbane. And I've been a big fan of Joe D ever since then. We'll move on to the next game. We got Geelong versus the Bulldogs. Massive game for the Bulldogs. They needed to win this to be able to at least have a chance at finals. and keep their hopes alive. And they ended up getting the Chocolates, first win at GMHBA since 2003. It's been 20 years since they won a GMHBA. And they essentially is a good game until the last. They kicked 6 goals to the Cats 1 in the final term. So they kind of, I guess, got a fire lit up under their butt and then or their ass, and decided to actually go out and win the game and give themselves a finals chance. So Geelong did make 7 changes for the match also. So there's quite a young team for them, and they maybe were already sorting out their Mad Monday kit. I don't know. Maybe they were kind of looking past it, but it was a big day for the Big Bont, so that makes the Brownlow race very interesting. We all will talk about this, I'm sure, for the rest of the finals campaign between Nick Bont and Petrarca, who's going to win the Brownlow race. But it's been an impressive year for the Bont. He's one of the best in the league, as we all know, and he had definitely a good game over the weekend.
It was a bit nerve-wracking there for the Bulldogs because everyone knew that they had to win it, and they came out like a team that had all of the expectations on their shoulders. They were missing kicks. Their disposal efficiency was shocking. On the other hand, Geelong had nothing really to play for except for just getting a last win and heading into the Mad Monday happy with something to talk about. But yeah, it was, you can't write off Geelong ever at GMHBA Stadium, even if they are fielding a team of kids. But there was one old bloke out there amongst them. Well, there was a couple. Danger was still playing. But Isaac Smith, final game, and he was just going for it. They must have told him that he had all the freedom in the world. He had 36 touches and kicked the first goal of the game, which was awesome to see. Big smiles on everyone's faces. The whole team got around him. But then he just didn't stop taking shots. He he had a snap on the run from a stoppage. He was just banging them home from not home because he missed everything else outside of that first kick. But you could just tell he was having fun. There was one where he tried to cherry pick a little handball from an inside 50 mark, and the umpire wasn't having any of it. He kept going, "Yep, Isaac out, and then it cut to Isaac, and he was standing outside the boundary on the fence, just like, all right, I'm out. How much more out do I need to get?"
If there's one thing we've realized about Geelong is even the boundary has no limits to him. That's still in play. So, it's a fair call by Isaac. But yeah, he kicked the first goal and had 36 touches. So he had a good game, and he was just grinning from ear to ear. So it's great to see him go out with a smile on his face. And I think at one point he almost hurtled over Patrick Dangerfield after he kicked the goal. That was a wild celebration. He seemed like the happiest man you could possibly imagine. And it's an incredible career he's been able to have and accomplish. And it's a credit to him, I guess, going out there. Just, I don't know. It would be a great feeling, I guess, not that the game doesn't mean anything, but to go out there and just literally have fun, and your coach probably not give a shit what you do. It's like a great experience, I'm sure, to have.
And it was Sam Meningola's last game for Geelong, still going to go out there and explore his options, but there's a big turnover there at Geelong, so interesting to see what happens next year. Interesting to see what happens over their off-season, because they've historically been able to draw in a lot of fringe players or experienced players to just top up rather than dropping all the way off. So it'll be interesting to see what tactic they take, whether they go back to the draft or if they try to top up again. But one thing that we know, it's death, taxes, and Geelong's Mad Monday kit being absolutely elite. Brian Myers turned up to Mad Monday dressed up as Leo Messi, as we all know what went down with Jared Waitley, and comparing, the fake tweets. And then Isaac Smith, fresh one, went as Ben Keys, and the Tomahawk and Guthrie went as the goalposts, and he kicked a goal, and then they gave it a point, and then he was celebrating. They're always pretty good. De Koning as Batman with the mask. I think Danger and Reece Stanley went as Goose and Maverick, and even had a Harley and everything.
They do it well over there in Geelong for Mad Monday. Billy Brownless, I think, was involved with the whole Adelaide debacle with Hawk and Guthrie, and declared it a point. And they just love it, man. I think it's like, I think as a Geelong player, you feel almost a bit of pressure with your Mad Monday kit to make sure it's good enough. Yeah. Because cameras are going to be out there having a look, and everyone's going to be talking about it. So I don't know. Maybe they plan these things years in advance, or it depends on if something that happens. You look at De Koning had Batman because he had the mask that he had kind of broken his his nose or a part of his face and had to wear the old LeBron mask, the black mask, and decided to choose his Batman as his go-to. So it's interesting to see what they do, and everyone's eyes are kind of watching once they get knocked out of finals or whenever they finish up and go, ooh, what's it going to look like this year? What are they going to do? Are they going to roll out like old boys out of an old bus at retirement home or whatever it might be? And no, I love it. I absolutely love it. They're keeping that Mad Monday tradition alive. And the one very few teams that probably do it well, I feel like.
I hope people keep that sense of humor and, can take that forward into the future where it seems like we're all going to be very robotic now. We know that Jack Riewoldt has a great sense of humor. He went to his Mad Monday dressed up as Dimmer, got the full kit. He had the Gold Coast Suns McDonald's t-shirt on. He had the Gold Coast Suns apron on, and he was cooking up a big frying pan full of snags. So he's doing it well. So you were saying that they might plan it a while out, but even the Ben Keys one, that's timely. That's like a week ago. So like the quick turnaround on these, when do you think it's okay to start organizing your Mad Monday kit? Are you one of those ones that are like, I don't want to jinx it, we're not out yet, we're in finals, like you want to organize it after the fact, or are you want to get something good sorted?
I think it depends on if something unique happens, right? Like you might kind of have that idea in the back of your mind, but you don't actually buy anything probably until season's done. Unless if you're in this situation where like Geelong knew like a week before or whatever it was that they weren't going to make finals, you probably start at that point looking at options, knowing that like that's going to be the end point of your season. So yeah, I think I remember whenever I went as Crocodile Dundee, like I didn't buy anything. Like I got the whole like fake tan spray and all that kind of stuff, and went out and bought the hat and the whole kit and everything else within like a 24-hour period. And I was looking all over the place to go try to find crocodile teeth and ended up using candles, I think, shaped as crocodile teeth. And it was just a debacle there. It was wild. I was trying to find a hat that looked like Crocodile Dundee, and I'm going out to the Vic markets and then going out to $2 shops and everything else, trying to find, something that'll make this thing work. And it's not until probably the season's done you can really think, where am I going to get this stuff? How do I get it? Where do I, find these things? And that's probably what they do. But like you said, the timeliness of the whole Adelaide thing with Ben Keys is, quite funny within itself. And I think, hanging out around the club, you probably have the post thing that they use. They probably had those just laying around. So it didn't really probably take too much actually, sourcing out. He probably just walked into the training and then he goes, oh yeah, we'll just use these two.
Yeah, you can get Danger's old Adelaide kit, so he doesn't need a new one there. I was trying to think of, some timely, spicy ones that you could get into this year. I was thinking you could go dressed up as the guy that stole your goggles, not Ben Keys, the guy that stole them from your house, not off your head during the game. You could go as Christian Petrarca, dressed up for cooking.
That would be spicy.
Little cooking one.
Spicy.
I was trying to, who have you given shit to this year that you need to get back?
Who else have I talked trash to? Who else? Oh, Geelong at the very beginning. Radicalia.
That was big Radicalia.
No, I don't know what I'll be for Mad Monday yet. I haven't really thought that far ahead. Hopefully we're still playing in quite a few weeks' times. But I think once your season finishes up, you'll figure it out. But we'll move on to the next game before this gets a bit weird. West Coast played Adelaide and lost 78-123. And the big thing about this game, right? So we've got the Coleman race going on. We know Tex Walker was, I think, maybe 7 or 8 behind Charlie before he started this. And Adelaide surely had to know this going into the game, going, let's get everything through Tex Walker, get as many goals to him as possible so that we can at least give him a chance to win this Coleman. And he kicked 9 goals for the game. 9 goals for. And let me tell you this, if he would have kicked all 13 of those, your boy would be holding the Coleman medal at the end of this. And he didn't. Obviously, Carlton was yet to play this game, play their game later in the weekend, but he did kick 9-4, which gave him every chance to win the Coleman. And credit to him, he's kicked 75 for the season, and he finished the game 1 ahead of Charlie for the Coleman. So he's going, there's a chance. And Charlie playing GWS has to win to be able to get into finals. There's quite a bit on the line. So there's every chance he was going to win this Coleman by the end of this game, knowing he'd kicked 9 goals, essentially. And, whenever the game started, he took one out of the ruck, snapped it, and he was probably thinking, shit, I could kick 20 today. There's nothing stopping me. And let's be honest, there's nothing more demoralizing as a ruckman than a forward kicking a goal on you and then yeah, you maybe get dropped the next week. Personal experience on that one. But but it was out in the West, in West Coast against the Eagles, and a massive day, obviously, for some of their longtime players. Shannon Hearn, Luke Shuey, Nick Natanui, all retired. And the boys were cheered off, and it was a massive celebration for them. So it was incredible to see them be able to get a proper goodbye at their home field, and I'm sure something that was quite meaningful for them.
And it looked like they were going to get the job done there for a bit for their retiring boys, but unfortunately couldn't get across the line. See, that's 75 for the season. I'm talking about that's not that far off getting the ton. People are always talking about the ton's going to be impossible to get. There'll be a time. It always comes swinging back around. Or do you reckon it just won't ever happen again with the defense nowadays?
It'll never happen again. Not with 666. Oh, not with the way defenses play. 666 has definitely helped, but the way defenses play now, just to get 100 for the season is just no one will ever do it again.
Yeah, but you say that now because that's where the rules have changed the game into now. It only takes them a couple more rule changes and we'll be back. What if they introduce multi-ball and there's like 3 footies out there at any time?
What are we doing? Playing pinball.
Yeah. Every second quarter they introduce another ball and you finish the game with 3 balls for the game. It'll be way more interesting. So it only takes you. You just need some.
If the ball hits the post and goes through, that still counts as a goal. Maybe that will get it across the line.
We'll figure out some stuff to get those numbers up. But yeah, it was a good win by Adelaide, and officially that non-review call has cost them finals. So, that's a bit of a stinger. But yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. But them's the breaks, as Gills would say in a press conference with an arm in a sling. But let's move into their brother club, Port Adelaide. Because Port Adelaide did what they had to do and they beat Richmond at home. There's a few little scares this week because you thought Port will come out and just demolish Richmond, who was like depleted of its old stars, doesn't have anything to play for. But
if Port won this game by a fair margin, they'd be able to get a home final. So if they demolished Richmond, properly demolished them, then they had a chance of popping up to number 2 on the ladder and then being able to have the home final, and Brisbane would lose that fortress advantage.
If it's not trending in that direction in the first 10, 15 minutes and the team's fighting back, you go into, okay, we need to win this game mode because you need to get the W's on the board. A lot of these teams needed momentum going into finals. You don't want to be a top 4 team coming off a loss going into finals. But they got the job done, and there was a few interesting little things. Mainly, I like the Dusty Martin arc that was started the season a little slow, and now he's just like ripping it up. He's almost back in his, Dustin Martin primetime era form. 33 disposals, 7 inside 50s and a goal, like fending off everyone. I don't know where it's come from, but it's awesome to see the big fella back.
Yeah, he's maybe it's just a bit more opportunity with a few other big players out, but he is just dominating right now at the moment, and it's a good sign. I mean, there's a few people questioning whether or not he would go to the Gold Coast. I don't know if that's a yes or a no, but he's putting his hand up to say, "Hey, I'm living up to my contract. I am doing as much as I can to keep Richmond in a winning chance with some of these games." And if they would have kicked straight, like they would have actually been in this game. Like they missed quite a few goals and their kicking wasn't too great in the game, but it would have been a hell of a lot closer if they could have kicked straight. And Dusty's doing everything he can within his power to try to get a W on the board for them. So it's great to see big players standing up in those moments whenever, maybe the game doesn't have as much meaning to it. He's still got that fire to be able to do something and be able to have a good game. And it's a credit to him what he's been doing the last half of the season, and how he's been really showing up and being best on ground for Richmond over this little time period.
And it was good because obviously Tom Brown retired as a journalist. He's moved on. He's gone on to other things, but we didn't know where he was. We haven't seen him for a while, and he popped back up at the footy, playing his first game for the Richmond Tigers. How did you see Tom Brown going out there?
Now, Tom Brown, not the Tom Brown reporter. I hate to break it to you, Braden. Tom Brown is a new debutant for Richmond, and James Trezier, I think is how you say it, both played their first game. They're bleeding some of the young kids on their list. They both played pretty well, got their hands on the footy, and it's good signs for the future for them. But yeah, Tom Brown, yeah, he is retiring as a journalist, but fortunately we have another Tom Brown that stepped up in his place, so we can still talk about Tom Brown. And he would love that. He would love that. Now we'll go into the next game. This is a massive game because Sydney and Melbourne were playing each other. Melbourne, obviously, top 4 spot locked in, but wanted to make sure they came into finals, a bit of momentum, and Sydney had everything to play for at this point. And all the usuals for Melbourne stood up. You got Mills, Golden, Parker, Viney, Petrarca, Oliver, all were big on the day, and they are looking schmick going into finals, aren't they?
I think Oliver is getting it done. Like on the stat sheet, he's still having his 25, plus, which we would all love if we could get 25. I mean, I would love to get 25 in the AFL, but I think he's ticking away. He's starting to get that fitness back up and running. Petrarca almost carried him across the line. Viney and Parker almost the same mold, and they were just going head to head and getting into each other all day. I think I just want to bring up Goulden, and we all know how good he is. We know how good he is to a degree, but if he's not picked as an All-Australian wingman, I swear to God, if they put a midfielder in there that has never played wing in his life, come on, there's got to be, we got some good selectors in there. Bucks is a selector. Surely he talks some sense into him, but Goulden out on the wing again, 42 touches, 2 goals, and they were cracking goals. So there was one, his first goal was nuts. It was like out of the ruck contest, handball to like Blakey, little lizard scurry run out to the wing, handballed it off to Goulden, who kicked it running as fast as he could be running and getting tackled at the same time from outside 50. And it went through almost post height. I don't get it. He does wonders for us little fellas because I see him running out there and I'm like, go well, you soldier, you sub 6 footer. You just love to see it.
He had a hell of a game, but I've got to bring this up now. But a few things that happened in this as far as injuries, and that was probably one of the biggest things out of this, bar another thing we'll mention, but Melksham did his ACL, and that's, I think, confirmed now. And another one that was on the injury was Bailey Fritsch. Looked to have done a foot injury after coming back from the exact foot injury that he was missing footy for. So he did finish with 5 goals, though, which is just obnoxious to think that he was able to do that with a foot injury, but does not miss the old man. But yeah, there's a few injuries for Melbourne. They're going to have to replace or look after, I guess, over these next couple of weeks. And with Melksham out, it's going to be interesting. Tom McDonald kicked 5 in the VFL, and Brody kicked 3. So their bigs are doing well in the VFL also. They had a big win over North Melbourne, and it'll be interesting facing Collingwood, myself, Darcy, Cameron, whether or not they bring Grundy back in to play ruck with them or what they end up deciding to do. Simon Goodwin, few interesting decisions going into finals.
It's absolutely devastating, the Melksham ACL, because he's been almost a lone soldier up there in the last few weeks, kicking handy little mini bags of goals, playing well above his weight class. And it's like the other added layer that he missed the first grand final, so he didn't get to win the premiership with the rest of the team. So he was in good form going into the final series. So it's devastating in ACL, and then it's devastating being at this time of the year. And then on top of that, missing finals when you miss the first grand final. Prayers up to Melksham. I think that's my biggest prayer for the year, that poor bloke. You don't want to go through that. Bailey Fritsch looked like he was shot. He could hardly walk. They dragged him from the field, just returning back from a broken foot, and he was holding the same broken foot. And everyone was like, well, that's it. He's done. They went straight down into the rooms and he re-emerged and they were taping him up on the TV and you're like, they must, I don't know, they're going to get a quarter out of him before they put him down out the back. And he came back on and kicked another 4 goals and looked sprightly. He was jumping around, agile as ever. I don't know what they did to him down there, but they must have given him some good juice because he came back up and just lit the whole joint up. Now, speaking about lighting the joint up, SCG, Lance Franklin, lap of honour for the retiring Buddy Franklin. And it was amazing, a massive turnout, like 40,000+ came to watch Buddy walk a lap for the last time. Tears in his eyes, which you don't see a lot of emotion from the big bud. So it meant a lot to him to go out there and do his lap with his wife and kids. So, massive day for the Sydney Football Club. Unfortunately, couldn't get the win, but to have Buddy out there for one last time, it was good to see.
Oh, I'm sure it would have meant a lot to him, obviously, with so many people showing up for that game. Obviously, a massive game for them in the context of the year, but also to be able to send off such an incredible human and someone who's been massive for not only the Sydney Football Club, for the AFL for a long time. Everyone will remember his 1,000th goal for years and years and decades to come. And to have him out there to be able to give a last lap honor and so many people clap him on, that would have meant the world to him. They always say, these people, they don't just magically show up there. There's an absolute army behind him that get him to that point. And I'm sure he would have been incredibly proud of everything he's accomplished, and how many people were there to support him was just absolutely incredible. So a massive shout out and congratulations to the man, the myth, the legend that is Buddy Franklin, one of the greats that will ever play this game. And it's going to be weird not having him out there next year. It's going to be just a bit of a hole to fill in all of our hearts, I feel like. But these things happen, and unfortunately, careers cannot last forever, as we all know. But we'll go into the next game, Carlton 73 versus GWS 105. GWS, a lot to play for. They got to win this or they're out of the finals. So Carlton going in, obviously everyone's been talking about their big win streak, and it's up for grabs. And GWS, with everything on the line, got the job done on 32-point victors on the day. Big news, though, and we all were looking at this man at the beginning of this game thinking, is he going to get the Coleman back from old Tex? Tex was up by 1 goal on him, and within the first quarter, he essentially won the Coleman medal back from him. And I'm sure that would have been a nice feeling for him just to go, I can take a breath. I've got the Coleman medal now, being the last game of the round. And he could sit there with a smile on his face knowing he's won that award. Also, before the game, GWS ended up omitting Sam Taylor, who was going to play on Charlie. So then Charlie was probably sitting there before the game going, you might as well just lock this one in. Well, I think we're ready to go. The Coleman medal, I've pretty much gotten the grasp. And now the fact that their number one defender that was going to play on him is omitted, he's probably going, hell yeah, this is going to be an easy day out.
And we talk about the brick wall that is Sam Taylor. I was almost, a bit nervous for Charlie going up against Sam because he's kept a lot of big names to 0 goals this season. So I thought up until late before the withdrawal that, it was going to be a game on. But, Sam Taylor out, hamstring injury. So that's going to be an interesting one leading into finals, whether it was just like a little awareness, as they say now, going into the break, give him a couple of weeks to freshen up. But they did need to win the game. So it must have been serious enough to pull him out, knowing that they needed to win the game, and they had the big Charlie up forward. And we did speak about filling the hole that is Lance Franklin. So Charlie straight away winning back-to-back Colemans. It looks like we've got a ready-made forward to, step up and fill the shoes. There's always someone that comes by and just, the next one up. And it looks like Charlie's, ready-made. So be interesting to see how he goes. But let's not mix our words, Mason. GWS making finals. I will say I am not fucking surprised because I picked it a long way out. Big sound, and we're just getting started, Mace. Your Gold Coast Suns, they're just left in the shadows. It's time for the big Giants to step up. And I called it early this year. I said that their output didn't reflect the amount of points they're getting on the scoreboard and on the ladder. And they have come home with an absolute rush and are one of the most informed teams in the competition at the moment. So it is going to be scary for whoever they come up against, and they do come up against St Kilda, and it's also scary that Saints are in pretty good form. I think the bottom 4 of the 8 are like, you're looking at Carlton, St Kilda, GWS, and Sydney. And they're all been doing pretty well.
Pretty well this time of year.
Toby Green did what Toby Green does, stepped up, kicked 4 goals when they needed him most. Highest goal scorer on the ground, but that wasn't the only thing because when I say Toby Green and I say eye gouging, you're probably thinking, oh, geez, what has Toby done now? But no, not Toby Green. Clean skin Jacob Wiedering is in a bit of hot water for grabbing around the eye area of Toby Green. And you would have thought Toby, being in a bit of trouble himself, he might, go into bat for Jacob Wiedering and say, nah, nothing in it. nothing in it. But post-game was interviewed and said, yeah, I think Weeders might be in a bit of trouble for that. Like, I got in trouble for the same thing. So if I got in trouble, he should surely get in trouble. It was very tongue-in-cheek, but at the same time, he's not lying. But watching the replay, my honest opinion was that he was just trying to, like, grab his head to be like, get off my player, and his hand went near the eye region for the briefest period of time. And, they showed replay after replay in super slow motion, so it looked way worse than it was. And then they were like, and he's cut on the eye. He's cut on the eye. You can't, defend the fact that he must have got him because he's cut on the eye. It was the other eye. So, they were just doing their best to, bury poor Jacob Wiedering that's going to play in his first final. Give the man a break.
But, well, you know me, I'm not opposed to people getting in trouble for eye gouging, but I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I find it hilarious that Toby essentially rolled him under the bus post game by saying that, and I don't think Wiedering's one of those people that probably goes out eye gouging people like probably Toby has in the past. I feel like Wiedering's white line fever is a bit more controlled than Toby's. Toby plays it and it goes well for him. Don't get me wrong, but I think Wiedering's a bit more controlled human in that sense. But I will say this about this game because it was quite important. Now, GWS, their score, they're actually 0.7% behind St Kilda. So if they would have kicked a few more goals, they would have actually had a home final playing St Kilda rather than the other way around, which might have changed, a bit of opportunity. A bit of a home crowd there may have given you a bit of extra free kicks, whatever it may be. I'm not saying that umpires decide this, but it would have been a big deal for them to be able to play in front of a home crowd. So that 0.7% was a big turning point. Unfortunately for them, couldn't get enough points on the board to be able to get that home final. But Carlton, as we all know, has been playing really well. Their ball movement has been great. Their pressure's been great. Their backline did go without Wiedering and Sod for a little bit, and that's whenever GWS really took advantage of it and scored quite a few goals in that second quarter, I want to say, while they were being checked by doctors before coming back on. So that was one opportunity GWS took advantage of and was able to get some points on the board from.
And it's also good to see Stephen Cornelio. Obviously, a couple of years ago, everyone was writing him off, but he's come back. Couple of solid years of form, playing really good footy, played his 200th game, and he's only the fifth Giant in GWS history to do so, which is a massive accomplishment. And he had a massive game too, 28 and kicked 2 goals.
Not bad for old Stephen. He's whenever that whole Amazon documentary came out, followed his journey of struggling through form and everything else, and made it very publicized. Where now it's great to see him back in form doing his thing. And GWS, obviously, I'm sure you'd be extremely happy, Braden, being able to say, I told you so to everyone out there that was doubting you. But it's incredible what he's done, 200 games at a club that, has started very new. And he's, like you said, only the fifth Giant to do so. So credit to him. Now, there's something else that happened in this game I want to mention, the goal review system. We talked about at the beginning of this. We'll talk about it again now. Oliver Hollins from Carlton thought he had kicked an incredible goal from the pocket. It was unreal, spectacular, right? Everyone's going, yep, goal, no stress, no doubt. And then they all start jogging back to the middle. And the score review system comes back and says, no, I don't think so. It's grazed the post. So you're telling me the score review system is now officially working for the AFL. I'm not sure if something was going on behind the scenes. Maybe someone was on holiday, whatever it is. But all of a sudden, now the finals come around the corner. They've switched the on switch, and it's back working.
It's interesting what happens if you actually use it, mate. If you actually call upon it. Let's get into the last game we need to review, which was actually the first game of the round. Essendon v Collingwood. Collingwood absolutely demolishing Essendon, putting them out of their misery for another season. No finals for Essendon. Essendon did need to win by 160-odd points to maybe be a chance, but they wouldn't have got there with points anyway. But they only scored 3 goals for the game, which is awesome for Collingwood because they've had a key focus on defence after the last couple of weeks, leaking a few points with no Darcy Moore in. Yeah, it was great to see, and plenty that came out of this game. We will touch on let's start with the scoring first and keeping Essendon to 3 goals. Although they kicked 3-11, 3 goals for the game, keeping them to 31 points for the entire game. You guys have to be happy coming out of this one.
Well, I think there's been a lot of commentary around the defense from the media side. So maybe this shuts people up for at least another couple of weeks. I'm not really too sure. But even in that first quarter where we just dominated, and I think we're up by about 45 points within the first quarter, it was a sign of, everything was kind of firing on all cylinders. We were back in our groove, and it was great to be able to hold them to a small margin in that sense, and or a small score in that sense. So it was incredible. We have had a few changes, don't be wrong, with Darcy Moore not being in there. The captain of the team, obviously someone who's very highly valued in that position that really organizes everyone in the back line. We had Jeremy Howe go back for the game, so he played back in the back line also. So there's a few changes around there, but we were able to keep them to a low score, which I think was a focus of ours, to be able to get back into our defensive ways and understand that that's going to be able to make us better in the future going into finals, and hopefully lead to a few wins going into September. It's important to have a good back line and be able to stop teams from scoring a big score, and we realized that the week before, going into that game and finishing that up. It was tough to be able to score over. I think they scored 124 points on us, so it was tough to be able to score 125 points against any team. So we had to really lock up the defense and figure out exactly what was going on, and luckily we were able to do that against Essendon.
You didn't only get it done down back, you got it done up forward, scoring 100. It did kind of look like you went into a bit of self-preservation mode towards the latter half of the game, which is only fair, being up by such a margin. But Jack Ginnivan, his comeback has been monumental, given that, he could have easily just dropped his head, gone back to the VFL and played out the rest of the season there. He got back into the team, upped his pressure, still kicking goals, and he did it again on the weekend. Collingwood naming him through their social media man of the match. I think he had around 17 touches, but kicked 3 goals and dished off plenty more. And he had a few little interesting moments. So he did have a goal celebration. I'm not sure if you saw this or if you could talk us through it, but he went up and gave a little French kiss, not a French kiss. He gave a little cheek kiss to Bobby after his goal celebration. Is that a premeditated thing, or he just looked too delicious?
Well, now that it still looked delicious, well, we'll say this. There was a bit of a joke around the boys giving each other a kiss on the cheek and stuff before the game. I think there was some TikTok video that was played as a bit of a lighthearted moment. So maybe Guinea took it within his own right to do it again, to add to that video. I'm not too sure. But no, he played really well on the weekend, obviously. And, seeing him be back to his kicking ways and playing so well, it's a credit to him. Like you said, he's had to struggle there in the VFL and played at a lower level than he's probably used to for most of the year. And for him to be able to consistently rock up, play above the level, and then take the opportunity whenever it was given to him and be able to make the most of it, it's a credit to him. He's one of my favorite players, one of my favorite humans, and you always love him, playing well, especially this time of year. We all know he's important to our structure and stuff like that. So it's great to see the man with a smile and a bit of a cheeky, tongue out after a goal celebration, which was quite funny, but he's flying at the moment, which is great.
Now, he might be our favourite player, but he's definitely not Redmond's favourite player. Mason Redmond, for the second time, ripped his head off in the game. But I can understand why he would do it a second time, because he wasn't penalised the first time, Mace. So second time around, umpire finally gave him a free kick, and the camera cuts to the bench where Fly is going ballistic, celebrating, doing the double arm fist pumps, holding one finger up, saying, "We finally got one for Jack Ginnivan." Was it good to see a free kick paid for this young kid getting his head ripped off?
Yeah. Oh, man. It's just, you look back to a year before and it was just ignored. It's funny how 1 year can differentiate whether or not an umpire calls that decision. And Guinea slotting that one after, I'm sure it was a feel-good moment for him. There's no doubt.
You guys obviously needed to have a big convincing win. You were out there, and it looked like, although there was a lot kind of, on the line in terms of form and going into finals and final spots and everything, you looked like you were enjoying your footy. It showed a number of times across the whole game where there was one where you took the mark in front of Cameron and you let it sail over your head and he fell over taking the mark, and you were both having a bit of a laugh, laughing on the bench, laughing throughout, just a big smile on your face. Was that a focus of yours going into the week, to just enjoy your time out there, or was it just in the moment?
Yeah, it's a bit of, I wouldn't say it's mainly a focus. I think just obviously with us getting up so much in the first quarter, it was a great feeling to be able to be up that much and really enjoy the last little chunk of it. And and know that you've kind of got the game somewhat in your hands. And yeah, that moment where I think it was Cameron was going back to the fly. So the two biggest guys are essentially have no one on them on the fat side of the ground, and the ball gets kicked in, and he just sits there and he marks the ball and he starts pointing up to me. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Because he called me off for the mark, and he's like, oh, I lost it in the lights, bro. I lost it in the lights. And in my mind, I should have done it, but in my mind, I was like, oh, you want my goggles? Like, just put something that'll help you, my bros. But no, he ended up kicking the goal, I think, and Shepherd that fell on the line and kicked the goal, and it was one of those goals for the year. So it was it was quite funny. Everyone was in good mood. I think Fly was laughing on the bench and having a good time too. And it kind of brought back the some of the, I guess, the feelings midway and the beginning of the year where you're kind of dominating teams and you really get to enjoy the moments. Whenever you kind of got the game wrapped up at an early point of the term. So yeah, it was enjoyable. Plenty of laughs throughout the game, and had a good time.
And I guess I should ask this one because there's been a lot of focus on Gawn and Grundy and how it hasn't worked. It seems with you and DC, it has clicked pretty well throughout the whole year. Fly saying, when you're both in form, it works really well, obviously. How have you seen kind of your duo playing out over the course of the season and mixing it up forward and in the ruck?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit different than the Max Grundy combination. Like, I think if you look at the players like myself and DC, we've probably had a bit more exposure in the forward line than those two. They've always been the number one dominant ruck at their respective clubs. But for us, it's a bit of a we can change and chop and change and whatever it may be to the situation that needs to play out to best suit the team. So I think that's kind of the difference between the two situations. But yeah, we enjoy playing on the same team, and it's always a bit of a laugh. He's one of the guys that probably gets the most laughs out of all the players. He tends to do some embarrassing things throughout his career, which always makes the highlight reel or whatever it may be. And he's a heck of a player that's really blossomed over the last 2 to 3 years. It's been great to see him be informed throughout the year and be able to take that ownership of the first ruck. And then myself jumping in here and there as a second ruck has been enjoyable too. And over the weekend, it was I think that moment where I just picked him up off the ground. We both had a bit of a laugh. Was one I'll look back on throughout the year and just kind of think, oh yeah, like we've enjoyed our time together.
And we talk about the big boy fraternity, and you mentioned Phillips last game not getting the chair right off, the travesty that it was. There was a moment where you normally are the jack in the box on the mark, and I saw you go down for it, and I called out. I was like, oh, jack in the box. And then you, in a brief moment of, I don't know what it was, if it was just a moment of respect, you stood up from your jack in the box stance and stood the mark like a normal human being. Was that a mark of respect for the big fella in his last game?
Yeah, I mean, like, he's been an incredible player. He's been at a few different clubs now and playing his last game of his career. And someone I met through the hub, kind of got to know him at probably the coffee cart line in the hub. I met him and his family and stuff, and he was such a genuine, nice guy. And to see him in his last game playing against me, we were up by quite a bit at that point, and he had gotten the mark and was kicking for goal. And I'm sitting there, and after he kicked it, I was like, surely that's in, surely that's in, surely that's in. And he's going, oh, I didn't have the legs for it, And no, it was one of those things. You kind of have a bit of a laugh, and there is that big boy fraternity club. And, whenever we've kind of done the job, I guess, in the sense of making sure that we got the win over the weekend, I just kind of wanted a feel-good moment for him to be able to, look at his last game, be like, oh, I kicked a goal in the last game. The whole team got around me. Kind of experience, because he is such a he's such a guy that doesn't probably bring a ton of attention to himself. He kind of likes to play in the shadows somewhat, and is not really one of those people that's asking for any kind of media or attention. So it would have been nice for him to be able to get that acknowledgement. And unfortunately, he couldn't do it on the day. But like we mentioned at the front end of this, it was nice for him to at least get the acknowledgement whenever he walked off the ground and have both teams line up for them to walk off.
We will do a bit of a preview next week of all the games going ahead. Obviously, there's the bye period before finals, which thank God there is, Mace. Otherwise, you're stuck up there in Sydney. But give us a bit of a early preview of your thoughts of Collingwood, Melbourne, Thursday night at the G to open things up.
Oh, it's going to be good. They picked us early in the year at Queen's birthday. It's a team I think that we're pretty level with. It's a bit of back and forth, and it's an incredible midfield they've got. We've got a pretty experienced midfield too, so it's going to be an interesting battle in the middle. But I don't know. I think people will be looking at that game as one of the games of the week, that's for sure. And Thursday night footy, MCG. I'm sure it'll bring a massive crowd, obviously, as it always does. To have that home game there would be an incredible atmosphere. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a hell of a time. It's going to be good fun. But I'm going to enjoy this week off, Brayden. We talk about what we look forward to this week, and I'm going to enjoy a break from football to let the body recover and get ready for a massive finals campaign, hopefully throughout September. But it's nice to chill out for a little bit, have a breath over a weekend of not having to play football, and be able to get the body primed, ready to go.
I will say that I won't be having a nice break from football because I'll be diving straight into the AFLW. There's no rest for the wicked, mate. Straight back into it. Yep. I will say that I've things to look forward to. I've started the almighty rebuild that is my summer body. Hit the gym a couple of times, hit the weights, feeling sorer than ever. So it's good to be back in there, and it's just that sun that's starting to kick through. We're getting some 18 and sunnies. It's always good, mate. So I'm going to bust out the barbecue and get those proteins in, and it should be good. Looking forward to a big off season. I've already started eyeing off flights to go overseas. I got to get my passport updated, mate.
Oh, you haven't to do that early, brother. But the sun's coming out in Melbourne, which is always exciting. Finals are around the corner. The sun starts peeking out. You almost hit 20 degrees, and people start getting outside and, from hibernation in the winter. And it's an exciting time. I'm not sure if you're still committing to that half marathon, Brayden, but I would love to see it still.
I reckon I could do it easy. I could do it backwards.
I reckon I'd pay for you to do the half marathon. I might run it with you. Who knows?
Yeah, do that. Let's go I want to do the New York Marathon. That's what we got to get over.
Yeah, you have to qualify for that, Brayden. That's going to take actual training.
I can do that. What do you got to do?
Either that, if we can get enough people to donate money, we'll do it.
Yeah, 100%. It's even better if I don't have to pay for it. What's the weather like up there in Sydney?
It is beautiful. It is about 18 degrees every single day, and it's been nice. I think I actually got sunburnt yesterday, which is a feeling I haven't had in a long time. Got in the water, which was nice. Hung out at the beach. Went to Bondi Beach. Had a little beverage there, as you would, and enjoyed it. I actually saved a seagull's life too while I was there, which was pretty wild.
You saved a seagull's life from what?
Yeah, well, we got stuck in this umbrella, and then the people there were trying to help it get out. I mean, I physically didn't really save the seagull's life. I just kind of watched them do it, but I'll take some kind of claim for it. But a seagull got stuck in an umbrella, and it was entertaining while we were sitting there having drinks in front of Bondi, and I helped them out. I helped zip the umbrella back up, and it was a wild scene over here. I've had some really weird stuff happen. I've even had a parrot named Caesar, who's he's this guy rolling around on a bike, just stopped, and he's like, are you that guy from Collingwood? And I was like, oh yeah, I think so. And then he goes, oh, I've got to get a photo with you and my parrot Caesar. So then he throws this parrot on me, and I'm sitting there like a pirate before I go in for breakfast. I take a photo with Caesar. I had no idea. So there's some wacky shit going on up here in Sydney. I'm not going to lie. It's been an interesting few days, but the weather's been beautiful, and I've enjoyed it, and it's been a great time.
Well, it's good to know that you're known interstate. You're not just a one-state phenomenon. You're a big name deal all around Australia, Mason. So it's good to hear. And as we said, we'll do another big preview, and I reckon we get your best 22, the Mason Cox All Australian. I was also thinking that we should do the best phallic 22, the Cox 22, best phallic names. Best because we got Mason Cox playing in the ruck. Brayden Cox can be the water boy, but we got plenty of penile names out there that we can select for our best 22. Keen to get that up.
Yeah, I had Nick Cox playing on me on the weekend, so there's two Cox on each other. It was a bit of an awkward one.
That was it. Two Cox playing out of the box. I saw you up there playing out of the square. Didn't go unnoticed.
I would have thought that.
All right, mate, so let's wrap her up.
That's enough, mate, before things get too weird. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Absolute legends. Make sure you listen in next week. We're going to have a massive preview for finals. We're also going to talk All-Australian. We'll talk the Brownlow medalist. We'll talk about everything that is finishing up this season and also getting prepared for a massive September. So watch out for that. Make sure you're listening and subscribe and everything else. But massive, massive thank you for listening into the podcast, and have an incredible week ahead.
Cheers.